The Shinde Sena is rolling. Finally, they're out of their, five-star luxury hotel. They're headed towards the Guwahati airport, where a luxury aircraft is waiting for these VIP MLAs to fly them from Guwahati all the way across the country to Goa, where they will be installed in another five-star hotel, where they will await what happens in the run-up to the big floor test tomorrow. Remember, in just 3 minutes from now, the Supreme Court, the highest court in the country, will be hearing Chief Minister of Maharashtra, Uddhav Thackeray's plea to stop the floor test that has been ordered by the Maharashtra governor and scheduled for tomorrow between 11 a.m. and 5 p.m. What's going to happen in the Supreme Court in a few minutes from now will seal the fate one way or the other of the Mahavikas Aghadi Sarkar, because as things stand, the people on your screen, that is the Shinde Sena, have all the numbers, they're holding all the aces, and they are exuding confidence right now. AC bus taking them from Guwahati to Goa and then possibly into the Mantralaya of Maharashtra. All eyes now are on the Supreme Court. The highest court in the land is about to hear Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray's plea against the floor test order from the governor that came in earlier today. The court is all set to hear what is widely agreed to be the Uddhav Thackeray government's last stand. It is their final SOS and the final hope that they have of saving this government. Will the Supreme Court stay the floor test? Will they delay the floor test? Will they say we're not going to interfere with the governor's orders? All of those are possibilities, but of course here on India Today, we will never second guess what the highest court in the land is going to do in this hearing. The plea by the Uddhav Thackeray government challenges Governor Koshyari's direction to the government to face a floor test which must be completed in a special assembly session before 5 p.m. tomorrow, which means on 5 Live tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, potentially there could be the final result of this entire Maharashtra meltdown and crisis that began with an India Today news break last Tuesday. Anupam Mishra is with us live from Guwahati. Anupam, the Shinde Sena is rolling. They're on the road heading towards the airport, where we understand a chartered SpiceJet aircraft is waiting to fly them all the way across the country. Right now they're about 2,000 kilometers away from Mumbai. They're going to fly to a place which is about 400 kilometers from Mumbai ahead of that floor test, and they will likely be in the air when the Supreme Court hearing is happening. Anupam, what's going on?
Yes, Shiv, we have seen just Eknath Shinde is leaving with in a bus, and there are 4 buses. There are 4 buses heading towards airport, and Eknath Shinde was trying to say something to us, but as the glasses were covered, we couldn't hear what he was trying to say. But he was showing the victory sign, and this is the hotel, which Radisson Blue Hotel, where almost 7 days they have spent almost 7 days, and now they are heading towards airport. So they will probably go to Goa, and then tomorrow morning they will move towards Mumbai. This is what we are getting the information from the sources right now. Shiv.
We're getting information now. We're getting a big piece of breaking information that Uddhav Thackeray has just arrived for that cabinet meeting. I'm going to try and get some clarity on this information that we're breaking right now. The Shinde Sena lawyers have arrived in Supreme Court. So 2 different stories playing out. In fact, 3 different things are playing out simultaneously, viewer. Stay with me as I detail this for you. On the one hand, the Supreme Court proceedings are about to take place. On the other hand, Uddhav Thackeray's cabinet meet is about to start in Mumbai. And finally, the Shinde Sena is going to be heading to Goa in just a short while from now. Anisha Mathur is live with us from Delhi, right outside the Supreme Court. The hearing is about to begin. Any delays of any kind, everything is locked and loaded, as it were. Anisha, the final stand. All eyes on Supreme Court now.
Well, yes, Shiv, all eyes on the Supreme Court as all the lawyers for both sides have now joined into the VC proceedings, the video conferencing proceedings. We're just waiting for the judges to assemble in the courtroom. Senior advocate Abhishek Manu Singhvi, representing the Uddhav Thackeray faction, the Shiv Sena's Sunil Prabhu, who has filed this petition saying that the governor could not have ordered for a floor test. On the other hand, a battery of lawyers, senior advocates Neeraj Kishan Kaul, Maninder Singh, even Mahesh Jethmalani here for the Eknath Shinde faction, their argument is that the disqualification proceedings have nothing to do with the floor test, that the disqualification proceedings can continue even later, but currently the floor test must happen. The Uddhav Thackeray faction, of course, in the petition that has been filed today, has argued that the governor could not have issued this order, could not have issued this letter asking for a floor test, that this is being done to shield the rebel MLAs who are facing disqualification proceedings. In fact, they have said that the disqualification proceedings being in the court should have been a deterrent for the governor. We're still waiting for the judges to arrive any minute now, because it's 5 o'clock now. The judges could arrive at any minute. We're waiting for the proceedings to begin. And this is going to be very, very crucial, Shiv, because so far there has never been a case where the court has deferred, delayed or stopped the floor test, which is what the Shiv Sena, the Uddhav Thackeray government wants, that there should be a deferral or a stay on the floor test. But so far that has never happened. In fact, the court has continually in multiple judgments said that the floor test is the only way to determine who has control of the house. But today, with the claim being made by the Shiv Sena that the Eknath Shinde faction has not in fact given any official communication to the governor or to any person about withdrawing from the Shiv Sena, that is why they're saying that the claim by Devendra Fadnavis could not have been entertained, should not have been entertained. And what they're saying is that this is being done as a political maneuvering to shield and give a safe space for the MLAs who are facing disqualification. But ultimately, it is a numbers game. What happens in the assembly is what will determine the future of Maharashtra. Back to you. Okay,
what happens in the assembly will determine the future of Maharashtra. You know, can the Supreme Court, have an impact on the scheduled floor test that has been ordered by the governor is of course the big question, and we will know once the proceedings begin in just minutes from now. Anisha is going to be inside Supreme Court, so we'll have the fastest updates from Anisha and her team, frontline reporters getting you live updates from inside the courtroom that will be hearing Uddhav Thackeray's final hope of holding on to his chief ministership. Those are live images there of Uddhav Thackeray arriving at the Maharashtra Mantralaya to chair a cabinet meeting just minutes ahead of that Supreme Court hearing. I want to bring Sahil Joshi very quickly in on this. Sahil, cabinet meeting taking place shortly. Supreme Court to hear Uddhav Thackeray's plea in just minutes from now. What's on the agenda at this cabinet meet, Sahil? Quickly.
Well, most importantly, this cabinet is going to be crucial. First of all, everyone knows that this is going to be the last cabinet of Uddhav Thackeray, irrespective of what happens in the Supreme Court today, because they don't have the numbers, which I have spoken to almost all the remaining ministers and in Maharashtra right now, the Congress NCP ministers as well. And all of them unofficially have understood that they don't have the numbers. Now the problem remains for the Shiv Sena is to claim who is the real Shiv Sena legislative party, but that is going to be fought in the Supreme Court separately. That is not the problem. Now the problem will happen in the cabinet now. What I'm hearing right now is that Uddhav Thackeray has decided to push his Hindutva agenda in the cabinet meeting, which has been pending since last 3 years. The first one, change the name of Aurangabad from Maharashtra to Sambhajinagar, that is point 1. Change the name of Usmanabad to Dhara Shiv, that is 2. And of course, the new Bombay airport should be named after Deba Patil, one of the legendary leaders of Maharashtra. The third point is not the problem. The first 2 points with respect to changing the name of Aurangabad to Sambhajinagar and Ahmednagar and Usmanabad to Dhara Shiv are the issues which will be opposed by the Congress. That is what the Congress has said. Not only that, even Sharad Pawar have advised Uddhav Thackeray not to pick up such issues at this point of time when the government is going to fall or the government is in the trouble. He is saying that keep these issues for later. But it looks like that Uddhav Thackeray has decided to pick up these issues. We'll have to wait and see what happens inside the cabinet. If that happens, there will be a fight inside the cabinet. This will be the bone of contention against Shiv Sena and the Congress NCP. Please understand, Uddhav Thackeray has been charged by his own MLAs that he has quit his ideology, he has quit Hindutva and allied with the Congress and NCP. They want to go with the thought of Hindutva. They want to go with the Hindutva ideology, and that is the reason why they want to ally with the BJP. Now the same issue will be picked up by Uddhav Thackeray in the cabinet. That will be the problem. Yesterday, Anil Parab, one of his close ministers, and had made it very clear that tomorrow in today's cabinet meeting, they will be bringing in this resolution with respect to changing the name of Aurangabad to Sambhajinagar. If that happens, maybe this might be an exit route for Uddhav Thackeray. Uddhav Thackeray has left with no choice. If the Supreme Court doesn't support Shiv Sena's claim, then they will have to take the floor test tomorrow. Now, whether Uddhav Thackeray decides to take the floor test, go on the floor of the House, make his speech and then resign, or he will resign today, it's something what we'll have to understand. But this issue is going to will be picked up inside the cabinet meeting today. This is after many months Uddhav Thackeray have gone to Mantralaya. Again, another issue against Uddhav Thackeray was he never used to attend his office. He used to work from home. That is his official residence, Varsha. So all these things in this last cabinet, will the Congress, NCP and Shiv Sena fight? That is going to be the important point.
Very, very important point. Let's take you straight across to the Mantralaya. Sahil's team has all bases covered in this unfolding evening drama. Ritvik Bhalekar is live with us from outside the Mantralaya, where Uddhav Thackeray has just arrived for what is his final cabinet meet. The renaming of Aurangabad, Usmanabad and other things being banked on by Uddhav Thackeray as some kind of a Hindutva card or an exit route from this current crisis. Ritvik, all members of of this particular cabinet have arrived there. Has it begun? What's the latest?
All the ministers have arrived for the cabinet, if we could see in our visuals, and there's a lot of buzz today in Mantralaya because after a long time CM Uddhav Thackeray is physically attending today's cabinet meeting. He used to attend it virtually, and he used to always make sure that he used to address all the ministers virtually, for which he was criticized by opposition on a daily basis, and it was said that he is a minister who does work from home all the time. But today is important because there are a lot of speculations about today's cabinet, because there is no agenda as such. There is no cabinet circulated to the ministries, to their PSs, and what we've understood, what we've come to know is that there will be only naming proposals which are coming in today in today's cabinet, which were on Shiv Sena's card for a long time. Actually, before coming to power, it was very ambitious plans of Shiv Sena that naming of Aurangabad as Sambhajinagar and Usmanabad as Dharashu will be done as soon as the Shiv Sena comes to power and once the CM of Shiv Sena comes into place. But it's been 2.5 years now. It's not been done. There are a lot of procedural things which have come in the way, which was told by the ministry and CM, and in his last speech he gave in Aurangabad. So these are the reasons which have been given, but today's cabinet has been called upon without any cabinet note, just for the naming proposals, and that raises eyebrows, and that raises a lot of speculation that just for the naming of the proposal, which obviously Congress is in not consensus with, and we need to see after the cabinet that how will Congress ministers react to it, and will this be the exit route of CM Uddhav Thackeray from the Maha Vikas Aghadi government.
Okay, so 3 different things happening right now, all of them breaking at the same time, viewer. Let me just, break it down for you so you're fully in the picture of where things are. We've got a map also where we'll show you how things are changing very, very rapidly. It'll be on your screen in a moment. But right now, Goa, Guwahati, Mumbai and Delhi. 4 places where things are happening. On the left-hand side of your screen, the Guwahati airport, where the Shinde Sena has just arrived amidst a great deal of police security. Lots of questions, of course, about that as well. They're about to take off in a specially chartered SpiceJet aircraft and head to Goa. All the way across the country, they will be going from 2,000 kilometers to just 400 kilometers away from Mumbai. Stone's throw from Mumbai for tomorrow's floor test. And the Supreme Court hearing on the floor test plea by Uddhav Thackeray has just begun. We've got a confirmation from inside court that the hearing has just begun. The justice has arrived. The hearing has begun. We'll be going across to Anisha Mathur and Nalini Sharma, our frontline team inside court, in just a moment to get you the very latest. But stand by as we bring you live updates from inside court. Everything that is said inside court, you will be hearing first here on India Today. Tushar Mehta, Solicitor General for the Maharashtra government, appearing. And the updates and every little, the big exchanges between the legal teams and the justices will be live here on India Today. So stay tuned here. That hearing has just begun. Arguments are about to be made. All eyes now on the Supreme Court, because the proceedings that have kicked off in Supreme Court now will decide whether the floor test for Uddhav Thackeray's government will happen on schedule tomorrow and in what form. Nalini Sharma live with us from Supreme Court. Proceedings have begun. The hearing has begun, Nalini.
Yes, Shiv, the hearing is officially kicked off before Supreme Court just a few minutes past 5, which was the time that was given by Justice Suryakant as well as Justice J.B. Pardiwala for this hearing in this entire matter. And what we are given to understand is Senior Advocate Abhishek Manu Singhvi, who's representing the Shiv Sena Uddhav Thackeray camp, has begun his arguments before the Supreme Court, and what he is stating is that this entire order that was issued by the governor calling an assembly session and asking for the floor test to be concluded by 5 p.m. was done in undue haste, and not even enough time was given for all of the MLAs to be able to arrange as to whether or not they can be part of this floor test, because he is stating that 2 of the NCP MLAs are down with COVID. 2 Congress MLAs are currently abroad. So what was the need for this supersonic speed of floor test with no time to call the MLAs is what Abhishek Manu Singhvi is asking the court. They are of course going to be stressing for the floor test to not happen tomorrow. That is the main thing to watch out for from today's hearing, as to whether or not the Supreme Court will allow for the floor test to continue. But we can expect 4 detailed arguments to happen before that, because as we know and as we saw from the mentioning that happened in the morning, the Eknath Shinde camp is not going to let this go down easy, and they are going to oppose this at every step of the way, trying to ensure that the governor's orders are in fact followed and the floor test does happen tomorrow.
The arguments have begun right now. Supersonic speed of calling that floor test is how Abhishek Manu Singhvi, representing the Uddhav government, has termed it. The Shinde Sena is represented by their lawyers as well, Nalini. Do we have a sense of how long this hearing is going to take? Because Abhishek Manu Singhvi has also talked about being conscious of paucity of time. Is this going to be a quick hearing?
Well, Shiv, we really can't say, because the last time around this happened, if you remember, there was a midnight hearing that happened in the Supreme Court that went on till almost 4 or 4:30 in the morning. So we can expect for long arguments to happen in this case, because there are some very crucial legal questions that the Supreme Court will have to look into to decide what is happening. First and foremost will be as to whether or not the floor test can be conducted tomorrow, but that's dependent on several other factors. The petition that was filed by the Eknath Shinde camp before the Supreme Court, when they had first approached it, specifically talked about how there was a notice for removal of the Deputy Speaker and that no proceedings regarding disqualification can be conducted till the time that notice is decided upon. So the question now arises that can proceedings regarding the floor test at the floor of the House be conducted while the notice for the removal of the Speaker is still pending? What Abhishek Manu Singhvi is also stating before the Supreme Court is that this disqualification, the issue of disqualification of these 16 rebel MLAs from the Eknath Shinde camp is still pending before the Supreme Court. Neither the Supreme Court nor the Speaker have decided this issue and finality. So until the issue of the disqualification of these 16 MLAs is decided, how can the floor test be allowed to continue? But in the past instances that we've seen where the issue of a floor test versus disqualification has come together before the Supreme Court has time and again said that it is important to not only conduct a floor test but conduct a floor test on an urgent basis, so there is at least a stable government in the state. The issue of disqualification of an MLA is something that can be decided at a later stage, because first it has to be decided by the Speaker or the Deputy Speaker, as is this case, and eventually after that it will be subject to judicial review. So it's a slightly longer proceeding, due to which a floor test cannot be stayed. So as to whether or not they will follow the same line of thinking as they've done in the past is something that we have to wait and watch out for at the end of the day's hearing today. There is no doubt about the fact that an order will be passed by the Supreme Court, at least an interim order, where several scenarios are possible, one of which is that this floor test may be allowed to continue, but at the same time they might also delay the floor test to a later date if they feel that the issues in this case require a deeper consideration by the top court.
Okay, so it's complicated, but at the same time, there is basically just one thing that the Supreme Court needs to decide. Ultimately, what the Supreme Court decides now will be whether that floor test takes place as ordered by the governor. Whether the governor is allowed to, order this floor test, whether the Speaker can be interdicted, which is the word that Abhishek Manu Singhvi has used, in what form that floor test will happen, whether it will be delayed. All of those updates are happening, and if you look on the top of our screen right now, everything that's happening inside court, you're seeing it first here on India Today. So keep your eyes focused, viewer, on this band right above my head, because that's where all the breaking live updates are coming in. I want to bring Mausami Singh, who's gotten all the big leaders from Mumbai live and first here on India Today. She has the Shiv Sena's Arvind Sawant with her. Mausami, over to you. Shiv Sena, bated breath, tenterhooks. This could very much be the final day of the Maha Aghadi Sarkar. What's the mood in the Sena right now?
Absolutely, Shiv. We are where all the news is and getting you all the latest updates. Arvind Sawant is no ordinary man. He is the trusted lieutenant of Uddhav Thackeray. In fact, he just left Matoshri a short while ago, and he's also taking care of the entire legal issue of the Shiv Sena, being trusted lieutenant of Uddhav Thackeray. Arvind, sir, already Abhishek Manu Singhvi is making this argument that the governor's intervention is making the entire process redundant, the court proceedings redundant, and the deputy speaker's proceedings redundant. How do you respond?
I think exactly what is happening is producing in front of the court. How can you keep the proceedings of the court as a redundant, treat the proceedings of the Honorable Supreme Court as a redundant one, because the Honorable Supreme Court has already granted some period to those who are, the members for whom we have served the petition to disqualify them. Now, in that case, the Honorable Supreme Court has given a time up to 12th of July to submit their submission or their reply to our notice. During that period only, hurriedly, the Honorable Governor, just because the opposition leader has approached you, he has given some letter, and according to on that letter you are asking, within 24 hours you are asking to conduct a session and go for a floor test, as if you have decided it. As if you have decided it. Now, the way the news is, we are approaching the news, the victory is showing signs. It seems as if everything has been already presumed and already been decided, and accordingly the movements are being taken full place.
Guwahati to Goa, he says he's got more than 2/3 of majority and doesn't fear the floor test. Does the Maharashtra Vikas Aghadi and the Uddhav Sena fear the floor test?
It's not a fear, not at all any fear. We care a hoot about the power and all. See, we never ever. Shiv Sena is born with the principle of 80% service, seva, okay, and the 20% politics. Now, in that case, The politics to be played during the elections only. Bala Sahib used to say like this, and then serve the people. That is what he used to say like that. So we care a hoot about the power. It's not a question of, now it is a question of political as well as a legal battle. And if you keep mum on a legal battle, then everybody will say, but these people must be on a wrong foot. That is why they are keeping mum. So we are fighting for the principles. We are fighting with the principle. We are fighting for the to uphold the constitution of the India. That's why.
Shiv, you heard Mr. Arvind Sawant.
Yeah.
He's with us throughout this the proceedings as they happen. Getting you first up the reaction from Shiv Sena from Mumbai.
I'm going to keep coming back to you because there are going to be lots of reactions we'll need directly from the Shiv Sena. Mausami, continue to stay with me. Going straight back to the Supreme Court where Nalini is standing by. Nalini, you know, very, very interesting and important live updates that you and our team are bringing to us. The Supreme Court Justice saying, as far as disqualification issue is concerned, the matter is sub judice before us. We will decide it one way or another. How does the floor test depend on qualification or disqualification issue or the powers of the speaker? How are they interrelated or interchangeable? Because this is the precise point that Abhishek Manu Singhvi, standing a counsel for Uddhav Thackeray's government, is arguing that, you know, how can you pass an order when the issue of disqualification is still before the Supreme Court? But the Supreme Court saying, how are the two things interrelated? We'll decide that separately.
Well, yes, Shivan, this is an issue that we've seen happen multiple times over the course since this entire political crisis in Maharashtra has begun, because of the fact that there are so many parallel proceedings that are happening before different authorities. There is bound to be not only overlap, but questions like this, questions like the ones you're reading out being raised by the Supreme Court as to whether or not one proceeding will impact the other proceeding. Another very important aspect that we should point out over here is that the proceedings before the assembly are also constitutionally recognized proceedings. They are laid down, the entire procedure is laid down before the Constitution. So the Supreme Court or any court of law for that matter tries not to intervene in other constitutional proceedings to a very great extent until and unless the issue is regarding a final decision that has been taken either by the Deputy Speaker or what happens in a floor test. So for the Supreme Court to intervene in the interim in this entire case is something that is going to be very difficult for the court to do. But considering that they already did that in the last hearing, when they put on hold the disqualification proceedings, they will have to come forth with some sort of interim order on the issue of the floor test as well. Even the last time around, if you remember, Abhishek Manu Singhvi had raised this very same point where he had pushed for a stay to be granted on the floor test. But on the Monday hearing, the Supreme Court had said that they don't want to cause any confusion, which is precisely why they refused to pass any orders regarding the floor test. But the fast-paced developments that have happened after that and the order that we've seen come in from the governor, where he specifically called for an emergency session of the assembly and for the floor test to be conducted tomorrow, has led the Uddhav Thackeray faction to rush to the Supreme Court demanding some sort of relief because, well, quite simply put, the numbers are not in their favor right now. So this is literally their last resort, knocking on the doors of the Supreme Court, trying to get favorable orders, which gives them at least a little bit more time to convince either some of the MLAs to come back on their side or figure out a different strategy on how they are going to play this out. So today's hearing is extremely, extremely crucial for Uddhav Thackeray and all of the MLAs and other Shiv Sena leaders that are supporting him in this entire battle that he has now taken head on with Eknath Shinde. But along with that, the Supreme Court is also tied up in a knot because, like I said, there are parallel proceedings regarding disqualification, regarding the floor test, and the Supreme Court will have to streamline all of this and decide how the next step needs to be taken regarding this entire crisis so that the people and the citizens in Maharashtra, most importantly, do not suffer as an outcome of this.
It's so interesting. You know, what you've just captured, Nalini, is the crux of, you know, what will finally sort of pave the way for an order, hopefully from the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court is asking, it's firing back those questions and saying there are two situations. Let me quote what the Supreme Court bench is asking. They're saying, we all agree that they're saying there are two situations. One where the Speaker of the Maharashtra Assembly has actually passed orders of disqualification, and the other where it is pending. The situation we have here is that it's pending because it's before the Supreme Court, where the Speaker has initiated the process, but someone has approached the court questioning the very power of the Speaker. In this situation, also, are you pressing on the deemed disqualification, to which Abhishek Manu Singhvi, representing the Uddhav Thackeray government, says, had this court left it to the speaker to decide, it would be the speaker's choice. But here the speaker has been interdicted or intercepted. The person who is facing disqualification cannot have it both ways. On the one hand, the disqualification process is stopped. On the other hand, they are taking advantage. Remember, the people that Abhishek Manu Singhvi is talking about are these people who are sitting at the Guwahati airport ready to board a flight and fly all the way to Goa, which brings them to just about 400 kilometers from Mumbai, where, as things stand, that floor test is going to take place tomorrow. The Uddhav, Sena and the Maha Vikas Aghadi Sarkar is hoping that the Supreme Court listens to their plea and puts a hold on this floor test that has been ordered. It all comes down to the issue of the attempted disqualification of at least 15 MLAs of the Shinde Sena. They're all with Eknath Shinde at this point of time. Nalini, stay with me. Mosmi, stay with me. Ritwik Bhalekar continues to be with us. Ritwik, any more updates coming in from that cabinet meet? Okay, I think Ritwik can't hear me, so we'll try and get that audio link sorted out with him in just a moment. But quickly wanting to recap for you. Please, viewer, pay attention to the text at the top of your screen, because that's a live stream of what's happening inside court. So even if I don't mention it, you'll see it right over there. Why are you insisting on disqualification, says the Supreme Court to Abhishek Manu Singhvi, counsel for Uddhav Thackeray's government. Singhvi says the rebels can't have it both ways. You cannot have it both ways, because this issue of disqualification is pending right now before the Supreme Court, and therefore the argument is that while that issue is being decided, you can't have a floor test, because there cannot be retrospective invalidity of votes of MLAs who are currently deemed to be qualified but later possibly disqualified. That's the basic argument that Abhishek Manu Singhvi is putting before the court. But the Supreme Court is firing back and saying, why are you insisting on disqualification? The pending disqualification, and I'm repeating this over and over again because that goes to the core of the plea by the Uddhav side at this point of time, is that since the disqualification issue is pending, you cannot allow this floor test to happen. That's the core of what is happening. Very important update coming in from inside court. Abhishek Manu Singhvi argues that the disqualification applies as on the date of the complaint, not the date of the decision of the Assembly Speaker. He's basically saying that if this floor test is allowed, then the very objective of the disqualification proceedings will be defeated, and says that the court has basically interdicted the Speaker's proceedings. Break this down for us, Nalini. This last bit. He says, Singhvi says, the disqualification applies as on the date of the complaint, not the date of the decision of the Speaker. And if this floor test is allowed, then the disqualification proceedings themselves are completely defeated.
Yes, Shiv. The point that Abhishek Manu Singhvi is trying to make over here is that on Monday, when the first hearing happened before the Supreme Court, if the Supreme Court had not interfered in the disqualification proceedings and allowed for the disqualification proceedings to continue, because remember that day 5:30 p.m. was the deadline when the MLAs had to respond to the Deputy Speaker, but because there was an extension that was granted by the Supreme Court, they weren't bound to do so anymore. So what Abhishek Manu Singhvi is saying, that if the Supreme Court at that time had not interfered in the disqualification proceedings, then right now the floor test would not have been ordered itself, because the issue of disqualification would have been deciding. The second point that Abhishek Manu Singhvi is raising is that because the question of disqualification of these 16 MLAs is already in question, and that point that you are making, what he's saying is that the complaint was made even before the floor test was ordered. So you have to consider it from the date that the complaint was made, not from the date when the speaker will finally decide as to whether or not these MLAs should be disqualified. Because remember, Shiv, there is no time limit that has been given for the speaker to decide on a disqualification issue.
Yes.
The speaker can stretch it out for as long as he wants, depending on which political side he affiliates with. So keeping that in mind, what Abhishek Manu Singhvi is saying, that you need to decide it from the day that the complaint for disqualification was made, not the day that the speaker takes the final decision. And because the complaint was already made beforehand and the notice was issued to all of these 16 MLAs, you can officially say that the disqualification proceedings are underway. Now, when their membership itself is in question, their membership in the Legislative Assembly itself is in question, how can they be allowed to vote for the floor test? And the reason why he's saying it will become infructuous is
Nalini, just hold on to that thought for just a moment. We've got a breaking image coming in from inside the Mantralaya, where Uddhav Thackeray, you can see they're paying his respects to a large portrait of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. Very symbolic. Decisions of a Hindutva nature are going to be taken at this final cabinet of the Uddhav Thackeray government. This picture has just been officially released by the Maharashtra government. The symbolism cannot be denied. Ritwik, a picture of Uddhav Thackeray, the Chief Minister, on what could be his final cabinet, paying his respects to that giant portrait of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. Very symbolic, Ritwik.
Yes, indeed it is symbolic, and not just symbolic, we should say that it is the best of its rhetoric, because after a long time CM Uddhav has come to Mantralaya to attend the cabinet physically, and there's a lot of buzz in the Mantralaya.
Speaking, stay with me, coming right back to you.
एक सहयोग दिया है और हम लोग कल मुंबई पहुंचेंगे, ट्रस्ट कोर्ट में शामिल हो जाएंगे। उसके बाद हमारे विधायक दल की बैठक होगी, उसके बाद आगे की जो स्ट्रेटेजी है हम लोग फाइनल करेंगे। उद्या हमें देखिए कल ट्रस्ट वोट होने के बाद हमारे विधायक दल की बैठक होगी, उसके बाद हम लोग आगे की रणनीति तय करेंगे। उद्या आम्ही मुंबईला पोहोचतो आहे आणि उद्या विश्वासदर्शक ठराव जो येणार आहे त्याच्यामध्ये आम्ही सहभागी होणार आहोत आणि विश्वासदर्शक ठराव जो आहे तो ट्रस्ट वोट झाल्यानंतर आमची आमदारांची बैठक होईल, त्यानंतर आमची पुढची स्ट्रॅटेजी आम्ही तयार करू आणि पुढचा निर्णय आम्ही नंतर घेऊ।
आपके ऊपर जो इल्जाम लग रहा है कि आप बागी विधायक हैं, सारे विधायक बागी हैं, क्या
हम बागी नहीं है, हम शिवसेना है। हम बाला साहब ठाकरे जी की जो शिवसेना है, उनका जो एजेंडा है, उनकी जो आइडियोलॉजी है, उसको हम लोग आगे ले जा रहे हैं। एक हिंदुत्व की आइडियोलॉजी और डेवलपमेंट, ये राज्य की डेवलपमेंट के लिए हम लोग काम करेंगे, राज्य की प्रगति के लिए हम लोग काम करेंगे, इतना ही हम कहूंगा। बिल्कुल बाळासाहेबांच्या हिंदुत्वाच्या विचाराचाच सरकार असेल।
Okay, very important piece of breaking news. Eknath Shinde, the rebel Sena leader, confirming to India today that he will be in Mumbai tomorrow for the floor test, and after the floor test, a decision will be taken on what the next steps of government formation are. You might wonder whether that's about jumping the gun because the floor test hasn't happened yet. Whether that floor test is going to happen is in the hands of the Supreme Court as we speak. But Eknath Shinde, exuding typical confidence, he's on his way with his band of rebels very shortly in a SpiceJet chartered flight from Guwahati to Goa. And from there they will be flying to Mumbai. He's just confirmed tomorrow. He will be in Mumbai tomorrow with his MLAs and says that they will participate in the floor test. Listen in once again to the man of the moment, Eknath Shinde.
हमारे विधायक दल की बैठक होगी, उसके बाद आगे की जो स्ट्रेटेजी है हम लोग फाइनल करेंगे। उद्या हमें देखिए कल ट्रस्ट वोट होने के बाद हमारे विधायक दल की बैठक होगी, उसके बाद हम लोग आगे की रणनीति तय करेंगे। उद्या आम्ही मुंबईला पोहोचतो आहे आणि उद्या विश्वासदर्शक ठराव जो येणार आहे त्याच्यामध्ये आम्ही सहभागी होणार आहोत आणि विश्वासदर्शक ठराव जो आहे तो ट्रस्ट वोट झाल्यानंतर आमची आमदारांची बैठक होईल. त्यानंतर आमची पुढची स्ट्रॅटेजी आम्ही तयार करू आणि पुढचा निर्णय आम्ही नंतर घेऊ.
आपके ऊपर जो इल्जाम लग रहा है कि आप बागी विधायक हैं, सारे विधायक बागी हैं, क्या
हम बागी नहीं है, हम शिवसेना है. हम बाला साहब ठाकरे जी की जो शिवसेना है, उनका जो एजेंडा है, उनकी जो आइडियोलॉजी है, उसको हम लोग आगे ले जा रहे हैं. एक हिंदुत्व की आइडियोलॉजी और डेवलपमेंट, ये राज्य की डेवलपमेंट के लिए हम लोग काम करेंगे, राज्य की प्रगति के लिए हम लोग काम करेंगे. इतने ही हम कहूंगा. बिल्कुल बाळासाहेबांच्या हिंदुत्वाच्या विचाराचाच सरकार असेल.
Quite incredible. You know, the fate of all these people is not in their hands right now. You've got Eknath Shinde speaking to India Today, confirming first and exclusive that he's going to be in Mumbai tomorrow. They're all headed to Goa, but they'll be coming to Mumbai tomorrow to participate in the scheduled floor test. Uddhav Thackeray bowing and paying obeisance to that giant portrait of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. There have been complaints about Uddhav Thackeray not coming to the Mantralaya, very often. But the fate of both these men, Eknath Shinde of the Shinde Sena and Uddhav Thackeray of the Uddhav Sena, as it were, because the Shiv Sena as we know it is split wide open. The fate of both these men is not in Guwahati, it's not in Mumbai, but it's in the national capital, Delhi, where India Today's Nalini Sharma is plugged fully in to what's happening minute by minute inside the Supreme Court at this point of time. Very important that the fate of both these men lies in that building behind you, Nalini, also because now Abhishek Manu Singhvi has argued that the floor test order by the governor of Maharashtra, Koshyari, was, after meeting the leader of the opposition and not at the request of the government or the chief minister. That's a point that Abhishek Manu Singhvi is making right now, Nalini.
Yes, Shiv, what Singhvi is stating is that the constitutional provisions require the governor to act on the aid and advice of the chief minister as well as the cabinet. But in this case, the governor seems to be acting on the aid and advice of the leader of opposition who approached him yesterday with this letter. What Singhvi is also doing is making out a case for the disqualification of these MLAs before the Supreme Court, which is a very interesting strategy because the Supreme Court's not eventually going to decide as to whether or not these MLAs should be disqualified. It will be the Deputy Speaker who will decide that, and only his decision can be challenged before the Supreme Court. But Singhvi is not failing in making out a case for disqualification, where he is stating is that complaining about a party and approaching the governor in itself by saying that there is a threat to their life if they come to Maharashtra in itself is an act of voluntarily giving up the membership of the party. Now the 10th schedule lays down several grounds on which a member of a house may voluntarily give up the membership of the party. And the Shiv Sena faction had approached the Deputy Speaker asking for a disqualification on the same ground, that all of these 16 MLAs against whom disqualification has been sought have voluntarily given up their membership by going to Guwahati, by indulging in anti-party activities and by not attending the sessions that have been called for by the Chief Minister. So Singhvi is relying precisely on that, and what he is stating is that this decision will be irreversible. If tomorrow these 16 MLAs are allowed to vote in the floor test while the disqualification is still pending, and at a later stage, if the Deputy Speaker decides that all of these 16 MLAs actually deserve to be disqualified, then they can't go back in time and change the vote that all of these 16 MLAs put before the assembly tomorrow, because their vote is going to be extremely crucial. It can very well be the deciding factor on who makes or breaks the government in Maharashtra. So it is an irreversible decision that can happen tomorrow, which is why Singhvi is stressing that until and unless the disqualification is decided upon, there is no chance that they should be allowed to vote in the floor test, and that is why the floor test should not happen. This can also be considered to be a situation that has backfired on the Shinde camp, because they were the ones who actually brought the disqualification proceedings to the Supreme Court in the very first place. Correct. And they are the reason why the disqualification proceedings are pending here. So if this argument is accepted by the Supreme Court, even in part, that could mean very bad news for the Eknath Shinde camp.
Okay, so could this backfire on the Shinde Sena is one of the questions right now. But as far as things stand right now, before the Supreme Court takes a decision, it's advantage Shinde Sena. Let's listen in once again to Eknath Shinde. Please look at his body language. He's got his travel plans all charted out. He's about to take off for Goa, India's top travel destination, after a whole week in a 5-star hotel in Guwahati. He's now headed to Goa and then to Mumbai tomorrow for that floor test. Will the Supreme Court spoil his plans? We don't know yet. We'll know very soon. But listen in to what Shinde is saying.
हमारे विधायक दल की बैठक होगी, उसके बाद आगे की जो स्ट्रेटेजी है हम लोग फाइनल करेंगे। उद्या हमें देखिए कल ट्रस्ट वोट होने के बाद हमारे विधायक दल की बैठक होगी, उसके बाद हम लोग आगे की रणनीति तय करेंगे। उद्या आम्ही मुंबईला पोहोचतो आहे आणि उद्या विश्वासदर्शक ठराव जो येणार आहे त्याच्यामध्ये आम्ही सहभागी होणार आहोत आणि विश्वासदर्शक ठराव जो आहे तो ट्रस्ट वोट झाल्यानंतर आमची आमदारांची बैठक होईल, त्यानंतर आमची पुढची स्ट्रॅटेजी आम्ही तयार करू आणि पुढचा निर्णय आम्ही नंतर घेऊ।
आपके ऊपर जो इल्जाम लग रहा है कि आप बागी विधायक हैं, सारे विधायक बागी हैं, क्या
हम बागी नहीं है, हम शिवसेना है। हम बाला साहब ठाकरे जी की जो शिवसेना है, उनका जो एजेंडा है, उनकी जो आइडियोलॉजी है, उसको हम लोग आगे ले जा रहे हैं। एक हिंदुत्व की आइडियोलॉजी और डेवलपमेंट, ये राज्य की डेवलपमेंट के लिए हम लोग काम करेंगे, राज्य की प्रगति के लिए हम लोग काम करेंगे, इतना ही हम कहूंगा। बिल्कुल बाळासाहेबांच्या हिंदुत्वाच्या विचाराचाच सरकार असेल।
The situation as far as the MLAs is concerned can only be decided on the floor of the House. It cannot be decided by the governor, says the Supreme Court. Keep your eyes glued, viewer, to what's happening with these live updates on your screen right now. 10 seconds after they are uttered, they're going to be on your screen, so you have the fastest updates of what's happening. Kamlesh Sutar joining our coverage from Mumbai. Kamlesh, Eknath Shinde, brimming with confidence, brimming with, the kind of body language of someone who's about to fly into Mumbai tomorrow and become the big kingmaker that he is hoping to be, along with the BJP. Obviously talking very procedurally, but his plan has become very clear right now. And unless the Supreme Court spoils those plans, as Nalini says, things are still wide open there. The fact is, here is a man who's going to be flying to Goa now and has just confirmed he's coming to your city next, Kamlesh, hoping that that floor test is his big coronation moment.
Well, indeed, but all depends on what comes out of the Supreme Court. The apex court is going to decide the next course of action, and here Uddhav Thackeray is making another big exit plans. Uddhav Thackeray has just reached the cabinet meeting, which he would be chairing. Like yesterday, there are still speculations yet again saying that Uddhav Thackeray could be chairing his last cabinet meet, but this time he perhaps has an exit plan. So what's the exit plan here, Shiv? Uddhav Thackeray, his party rather, Shiv Sena, the cabinet ministers from the Shiv Sena would be proposing to rename the cities of Aurangabad and Osmanabad. Aurangabad would be renamed as Sambhajinagar and Osmanabad would be rechristened as Dharashiv. So that plan from Uddhav Thackeray is just another message or another symbolic gesture by him to show, which is aimed at the rebel MLAs, showing that yes, he's still firm on the stand of Hindutva. The way Congress and NCP are opposed to the move. Remember, Shiv, just before the cabinet meet began, Uddhav Thackeray's allies, the Congress and NCP went into a huddle before the cabinet meeting. They are opposed to the move of renaming Sambhajinagar and Dharashiv. They are into a huddle, so there might be some fiery scenes inside the cabinet. There might be heated arguments inside the cabinet, and Uddhav Thackeray might just take that moral high ground that my agenda of Hindutva of Sambhajinagar was opposed by the Congress and NCP, and I may take any further decision. So that might be the exit plan of Uddhav Thackeray, just to square the levels with the rebel MLAs that see, I'm still firm on my stand of Hindutva. I've opposed the Congress and NCP on the issue of Hindutva. That is what you wanted. till the time Uddhav Thackeray might be wanting it to fight down till the wire, till the last option, last legal and constitutional option that Uddhav Thackeray has. He is going to fight it down till there. Tomorrow 11 o'clock is the hearing. The Supreme Court is the trust vote. Supreme Court is hearing the matter, and Uddhav Thackeray is trying all possible tricks of politics and constitution and legal aspects, all that are available with him.
All available options with Eknath Shinde are wide open at this point of time. He's still pretty much unanimously seen, even by the Aghadi Sarkar, to be the man who's holding the advantage at this point of time. Nalini, coming back to you, those proceedings are speeding up inside the Supreme Court. You've got Abhishek Manu Singhvi representing the Uddhav government saying now that, you know, he's referring to the Shinde Sena and says, these people left from Maharashtra, went to Guwahati. On their way, they sent a mail from an unverified account that they have no confidence, you know, in the speaker. They have clearly walked across and hobnobbed with the opposition. How can the governor, after meeting with the leader of the opposition and without verification of the situation, call for a floor test? So, once again, that same point being made that the manner in which, or the context and circumstances in which the floor test has been called is somehow contaminated. That's the argument here. Nalini.
Yes, Shiv, and at the end of the bit that you just read out, what Abhishek Manu Singhvi told the court was that allowing this floor test to happen will blow the 10th schedule into smithereens. And what he means by that is that while the disqualification proceedings are pending, if these MLAs who are allowed to vote, these MLAs currently do not represent the will of the people, because they are somebody who switched their side after they've been elected, and they are currently facing disqualification proceedings. So the question is, should they be allowed to vote in this floor test at all, and should their vote even be taken into consideration? Another very important observation that has come in from the Supreme Court is where Justice Suryakant has said that there is no doubt about the fact that the 10th schedule does need strengthening. Now, Shiv, this is something that the Supreme Court has said multiple times in the past before. There was a very detailed judgment that had come out in 2020 that spoke about how the entire process under the 10th schedule should in fact be changed, where there should be an external mechanism that should be put in place to decide whether or not an MLA deserves to be disqualified, and it should not be left up to the Deputy Speaker to take the final decision in this entire case. In that judgment, in fact, the Supreme Court had also asked the Parliament to pass some laws to bring into effect all of these changes to the 10th schedule. But since 2020, that has not been done, and the process under the 10th schedule still remains the same, which is why the Supreme Court is still having to sit on adjudication on all of these crucial issues regarding the formation of a government in a particular state. The question that now becomes is that will this Maharashtra case be that turning point where we are going to see changes being brought into the 10th schedule, because the mechanism under it is just so flawed to decide on the issue of disqualification that there is a pertinent need to now bring changes to it. But will this be the case that will allow that to happen is something that we need to wait and watch out for. Another most important thing to watch out for today is what will be the interim order that will be passed by the Supreme Court. Will it be in favor of the Uddhav camp, or will it be advantage Eknath Shinde once again, like we saw in the last hearing on Monday?
Very interesting. It's been almost 15 minutes since the proceedings began in Supreme Court. Like Nalini said, there's no way to tell for sure, how long the proceedings are going to go on for until there is some kind of finality. But remember, time is short, because that floor test has been called tomorrow. So it obviously cannot meander on and on. Even though you're seeing all those live updates on your screen right now, a decision will have to be taken, because until that decision is taken, that floor test will go through tomorrow somewhere between 11 a.m. and 5 p.m. So the Supreme Court's order is the only thing at this point of time that can stop it. Kamlesh, coming back to you, we're going to have a reporter from Guwahati to get an update from Guwahati in just a moment as well. Kamlesh, that cabinet meeting by Uddhav Thackeray that you were detailing for us, has been on for a while now. The MLAs that they claim to be in touch with from the Shinde Sena are going to be coming a little closer home very shortly. They're going to be landing in Goa. They'll all likely be in Mumbai tomorrow. That's what Eknath Shinde says. Any further updates on that? Is the Uddhav Sena only banking on the Supreme Court right now? Or has there been any success in that back channel? Because on the surface, it doesn't look like it. They haven't been able to break loose any MLAs and turn them from the Shinde Sena.
Well, Shiv, when it comes to when the political situation is so volatile and the push comes to shove, at such juncture, seeing is believing. Uddhav Thackeray camp has been claiming that they have, they are in touch with 15 to 20 MLAs and they want to come back. They have been kept captive by the rebel camp. They would like to come back to the original Uddhav Thackeray Shiv Sena fold. That is what they're claiming. Eknath Shinde is claiming he's the original Shiv Sena. But tomorrow, an interesting update here, and I'll also explain how it matters, Shiv. Just a while before, senior BJP leaders, the leader of opposition in the council, Praveen Darekar, and senior BJP leader Sudhir Mungantiwar went to the Maharashtra legislature asking the deputy speaker there what is going to be the arrangement for the MLAs who are coming in from Guwahati. Where are they going to sit? Now, they haven't been given any concrete assurance on that, but now here is the catch. If they sit on the treasury, they either have to sit at the treasury benches or they have to sit at the opposition benches. In any situation, the BJP here or the rebel MLAs or the ones leading the camp would not want them to come into any contact with Shiv Sena leaders, because whatever is going to happen on the floor of the house. So that is what they'll try to avoid there. But in case they have to sit with the treasury benches, they'll obviously, there can be allegations later that they were influenced or they were wooed back or whatever happens. So that contact, direct contact during the procedure of a trust of vote is avoidable for both the camps, and Shiv Sena would certainly want to do that, because inside the assembly, no CRPF, no Mumbai police, no one is allowed. It's just the assembly, the legislature is sovereign, and it's just the marshals in the on the floor of the house who will be controlling the atmosphere there. But in such a scenario, any contact between Shiv Sena leaders and these rebel MLAs would be avoided. So that is how, because see, Shiv, the thing is simple. Eknath Shinde, why is Eknath Shinde's position strong at this moment? Because he enjoys the backing of 38 MLAs, now 39 MLAs as claimed by him, and they are with him. We have seen also. But on the other hand, even if this number drops down by 3 and the number
Kamlesh, just stay with me for a second. We've got some source-based breaking news coming in. I'm going to come back to you, Kamlesh, on this precise piece of information. There is a sense that Uddhav could be considering resigning at the cabinet meeting that is currently on at the Mantralaya. That's one of the scenarios that we are being given to believe is a possibility. Could Sharad Pawar and others, like they have at least 2 or 3 times before apparently, convince Uddhav Thackeray not to throw in the towel? There is an increasing sense that Uddhav Thackeray might resign very, very shortly at this cabinet meet unless his partners convince him against it. Pawar had earlier convinced Uddhav not to give up the fight against the BJP. Let's go across to Sahil Joshi, live with us from Mumbai. Sahil, possibility of a resignation on the cards by Uddhav Thackeray?
Well, there has been a lot of buzz in Maharashtra at this point of time that if the Supreme Court hearing, because I don't think that when the Supreme Court is hearing already the case, at the same time, Uddhav Thackeray will resign immediately, because they are still exploring their options. The reason why Shiv Sena and the Maharashtra government is in the Supreme Court at this point of time, because they still want to consider their options, number one. But, the timing is very important. The cabinet meeting is held at the same time when the proceedings in the Supreme Courts are on, exactly at the same time. 5 o'clock, the Supreme Court starts hearing the case. 5 o'clock, the Maharashtra cabinet sits and start discussing. Now, interestingly, what happens right now is that Shiv Sena have decided that they will bring in the resolution to change the name of Aurangabad to Sambhajinagar. Now, Sharad Pawar has requested him not to do it at this point of time, because his government is unstable at this very point, and he needs allies. The Congress and NCP have always supported him. Rather than creating an issue at this hour, keep it aside and discuss the usual matters. But it looks like that Uddhav Thackeray has not yet opened his cards, even with his people around him. But yesterday, Shiv Sena minister had made it very clear that they are going to bring in this resolution, that this proposal that Aurangabad's name should be changed to Sambhajinagar, and Usmanabad's name should change to Dharashiv. On the basis of that, if the Supreme Court order goes against the government, if the Supreme Court asks the government to take to conduct the test on the floor of the House tomorrow itself, then he may consider resignation before going to the house. But I have spoken to a couple of senior leaders in Shiv Sena. They say that he might opt for what Atal Bihari Vajpayee did in the parliament, or Yediyurappa did in Karnataka Assembly.
Interesting.
That he went for the vote of confidence. He knew that he doesn't have the numbers, but he made a speech there because he, finally he will be able to see his MLAs eye to eye, and he'll be able to speak to them on the floor of the house together. And he wants to use this opportunity because all these governor has already ordered the Assembly Secretariat to go live with the confidence vote. So the telecast will be live. His speech will go live. He wants to use this opportunity to reach out to his MLAs once again and to make his cadre understand that what exactly have happened.
Yes.
So he might like to use that opportunity as well. So he has two options: either resign today, create an issue over Aurangabad, Sambhajinagar, make a big shout about this, that we are still Hindutvawadis, we haven't left the ideology. Look, we have left this government on the on the issue of core ideology. We have always said that Aurangabad is Sambhajinagar, etc., etc. Or if the Supreme Court order goes against him, go and attend the no confidence motion. Of course, he will get the chance to present that confidence vote in the House, that motion in the House. Once that is present, his speech will be important. Make a speech, resign on the floor of the House and leave. That is what have happened in the past, and he might want to replicate what, that strategy a lot of time works, and that's what he's trying to, he will try to replicate, is what the Shiv Sena senior leaders have told me. So he has kept both the options open. He has always shown this unpredictability. In 2019, he shown this unpredictability by suddenly taking a press conference after the elections and saying that, keep your promise, 2.5 years, otherwise we will not be able to form the government. And nobody took him seriously. Similarly, even this time, he has kept his cards close to his chest. We'll have to wait and see what happens in the Supreme Court. We will have to wait and see what happens inside the cabinet. If both the things goes his way, then maybe tomorrow's resignation will be postponed, or otherwise he may choose this option as well. Shiv.
Okay, Sahil making a very, very crucial point there. The cabinet meeting timed alongside that Supreme Court hearing. Both events are unfolding live here on India Today. We've got updates from both those events inside the Supreme Court as well as inside the Mantralaya right now. Of course, the Guwahati airport is the other site of action where the Shinde Sena is about to troop into that aircraft that will be flying them to Goa. But whether it is Mumbai or Guwahati or Goa, it doesn't make a difference. It's Delhi which is going to take that decision, and I of course mean the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court will decide whether that floor test is going to happen or not. Could there be some last-minute drama? Could there be a resignation by Uddhav Thackeray either today or tomorrow before that floor test? What Sahil said is very, very important. Remember, B.S. Yediyurappa in 2018 after the Karnataka election had chosen to give a speech and resign in the Vidhana Saudha just minutes before that scheduled floor test, which was sure to sink him. Similarly, as the numbers are loaded right now, it seems to be a sinking ship for Uddhav Thackeray. Could he be waiting for an opportunity to make a final emotional or tactical point on the floor of the Maharashtra Assembly is the big question right now. Going straight back to the place which holds the fate of all of the people we're talking about, because ultimately we can talk endlessly about what the people are going to do, what their plans are, but all of that will become redundant depending on what the Supreme Court decides. Nalini is still with us. Nalini, what's the latest from the inside of the top court right now?
Well, Shiv, like I told you, Singhvi right now is making out the case for exactly why there is a prima facie case, and a strong one at that, for disqualification against all of these 16 MLAs. What he is stating is that the conduct of these 16 MLAs has shown that they have voluntarily given up the membership of their party under the 10th schedule, and because they've voluntarily given up the membership of the party, they stand to be disqualified under the anti-defection law. He is also relying on previous precedents of the the Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court has categorically spoken about the powers of the governor in calling for a floor test, and also where the Supreme Court laid down in their judgments that the governor is bound to act by the aid and advice that is given by the Chief Minister as well as the Cabinet. What Singhvi's point in this entire case is that there was an undue haste under which the governor acted, possibly on the advice of the leader of opposition, who he met late last night yesterday, and in that hurry an order was issued this morning, and that is what led the Uddhav faction to come rushing to the Supreme Court. So he's saying because there was no input that was taken either by the Chief Minister or by the Cabinet, and the governor solely took this decision, that makes the governor's decision liable for judicial review, and that is why they've challenged this order before the Supreme Court. Also because these proceedings were already pending before the Supreme Court, this was a point that they had pressed on earlier during the last hearing, that there should be a stay on the floor test, because understandably this is something that they were apprehending. Not just them, everybody was apprehending that eventually this is going to boil down to a floor test, and the Uddhav Thackeray faction will have to prove their majority before the floor of the House. Because they are not prepared to do so right now, they've still not been able to establish a proper connection with these rebel MLAs to try and attempt to get some of them back on their side, and they clearly don't have the numbers on their side. They have to develop a new strategy to try and buy some more time. That is what is at the essence of this entire case, why the matter is right now in Supreme Court, because when the Shinde faction had approached the Supreme Court, they were trying to buy some time so that the disqualification proceedings don't happen, and now the Uddhav Thackeray faction is trying to buy some time so that the floor test does not happen.
So you've got the Supreme Court that's still hearing the matter. Arguments are gathering pace inside the courtroom. Nalini and our team are bringing us all those live updates which you can see on your screen. In Mumbai, you've got last-minute Hindutva posturing and symbolism taking place by Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray, who sees this very clearly as a last-ditch effort to save the Mahavikas Aghadi Sarkar. And in Guwahati, you can see the Shinde Sena, the people who are responsible for this entire crisis, about to get on a plane and head to Goa. All of their fates are tied to what happens in the Supreme Court. It's been 1 hour since the proceedings began. Kamlesh continues to be with us. Okay, I'm going to go back to Kamlesh in just a moment. Let me play out for you once again what Eknath Shinde has just said. In response to India Today's question at the Guwahati airport, take a look at Eknath Shinde.
हमारे विधायक दल की बैठक होगी, उसके बाद आगे की जो स्ट्रेटेजी है हम लोग फाइनल करेंगे। उद्या हमें देखिए कल ट्रस्ट वोट होने के बाद हमारे विधायक दल की बैठक होगी, उसके बाद हम लोग आगे की रणनीति तय करेंगे। उद्या आम्ही मुंबईला पोहोचतो आहे आणि उद्या विश्वासदर्शक ठराव जो येणार आहे त्याच्यामध्ये आम्ही सहभागी होणार आहोत, आणि विश्वासदर्शक ठराव जो आहे तो ट्रस्ट वोट झाल्यानंतर आमची आमदारांची बैठक होईल, त्यानंतर आमची पुढची स्ट्रॅटेजी आम्ही तयार करू आणि पुढचा निर्णय आम्ही नंतर घेऊ।
आपके ऊपर जो इल्जाम लग रहा है कि आप बागी विधायक हैं, सारे विधायक बागी हैं, क्या
हम बागी नहीं है, हम शिवसेना है। हम बाला साहब ठाकरे जी की जो शिवसेना है, उनका जो एजेंडा है, उनकी जो आइडियोलॉजी है, उसको हम लोग आगे ले जा रहे हैं। एक हिंदुत्व की आइडियोलॉजी और डेवलपमेंट, ये राज्य की डेवलपमेंट के लिए हम लोग काम करेंगे, राज्य की प्रगति के लिए हम लोग काम करेंगे, इतने ही हम कहूंगा। बिल्कुल बाळासाहेबांच्या हिंदुत्वाच्या विचाराचाच सरकार असेल। हम बागी नहीं है, हम शिवसेना है। हम बाला साहब ठाकरे जी की जो शिवसेना है, उनका जो एजेंडा है, उनकी जो आइडियोलॉजी है, उसको हम लोग आगे ले जा रहे हैं। एक हिंदुत्व की आइडियोलॉजी और डेवलपमेंट, ये राज्य की डेवलपमेंट के लिए हम लोग काम करेंगे, राज्य की प्रगति के लिए हम लोग काम करेंगे। हम लोग आसाम के लोगों को धन्यवाद देते हैं कि उन्होंने हमको बहुत अच्छा सहयोग दिया। एक परिवार के तरह हम लोगों का उन्होंने एक सहयोग दिया है।